מזמור לדוד, אדוני אלוהי לא יחסר, בנודש ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. דשנת והשם מראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
As Cantor Schiffman began our service by chanting Psalm 23 in the Hebrew, please join me in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yishem Adonai mevarach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We're gathered here today to express our deep love, to honor and pay respects, and to say goodbye to our dear beloved Bernice B. Gottlieb, very precious wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, and friend. Our hearts are heavy with grief. B was a strong and vital, vibrant presence, guiding and shaping this family, drawing them together. And she was a dear friend to so many, gathered here to express all of our love for her as well. We're here to draw strength from each other, from memories of B, of what she meant to you as a family, to seek healing in those memories, and to find in them the legacy to hold on to, so she'll always be present. As we begin this afternoon, I'd like first to call on members of the family who are going to share some reflections. If you'll please come forward, Robin and Ariel. And Ari and Jordan, Dan.
The first word that comes to mind when I think of my grandmother is and will forever be strength. My grandma Bernice was one of the strongest women I've ever known. Whether it was in her role as a mother, a businesswoman, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a caregiver, and even in these last few months as a patient, she was nothing short of a beacon of strength. First off, she raised 3 boys, all pretty close in age, with little help, as my grandfather was working hard to build his business. As a mom of just 2 boys of my own, also pretty close in age, I can certainly appreciate the strength she embodied in motherhood. In fact, when I had my second boy, I would always say to my grandma, "I don't know how you did this with 3 boys." And she would always laugh and reply, "I don't know either," with a big smile on her face. On top of being a mother of 3 boys, my grandmother was also heavily involved in helping my grandfather build his business. In fact, she was really ahead of her time as a working mother when many of her peers stayed at home. After putting the boys to bed, she would work in the evenings, keeping the company's books straight. And when her boys were old enough, she would go to the office downtown and work alongside my grandfather. In fact, my grandfather had a desk in his office with 2 chairs, one for him and one for my grandmother. My grandmother not only served as a business partner with my grandfather, but also stood beside him in whatever organization he became involved with. She was always there, right by his side. And when he got sick, she cared for him and supported him relentlessly till the very end. Her devotion to my grandfather was remarkable and will forever be ingrained in my mind as an example to live my life by. Even when her own health began to fail, my grandmother still traveled to Chicago in the middle of the winter when my first son, Liam, was born to be at his bris. At the time, stairs had become quite difficult for her. Despite the fact that there was no way into my condo without going up or down stairs, my grandmother mustered up the strength to get in so that she could hold her new great-grandson. She loved her own sons endlessly and would do anything for them, just like they would for her. My dad and uncles exemplified the utmost love, care, and devotion to my grandmother, ensuring that she had the best medical treatment over the years. They, along with my mom and aunts, were by my grandmother's side every day in the hospital over these last 2 weeks. And boy, did my grandmother show her strength as she hung on there until each member of the family could fly in to be with her in person to say their goodbyes. I know that my grandmother's strength and devotion will live on because my dad carries these same character traits and exemplifies the same strength in every task he takes on, no matter how big or small. Grandma, I miss you already. And in difficult times, whether it's the boys driving me crazy or something else, I'll remember your strength and will try to live up to the example that you set forth. Love you, Grandma.
Bernice Gottlieb, an amazing person and an incredible wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend. This room is filled because of it. As a grandma, she was so caring and loving. She was always there for us, and we spent many brunches and dinners catching up, whether it was here in Cleveland or down in Florida. At her condo in Florida, she always made sure the fridge was stocked with cucumbers for my stay, as she knew they were my favorite food. She never got mad when I harassed the parking lot attendant, Benny, to let me drive his golf cart, even when my feet could barely touch the pedals. But don't get me wrong. For as sweet as my grandma was, she was also never afraid to tell you how she felt or what she thought. I can remember many occasions where she'd say something to someone and I'd find myself nudging her going, "Grandma." She was definitely strong-willed, and I'm proud to say I inherited that from her. Even throughout this past week, I come to see her every day and say, "Grandma, you're a feisty fighter, and I like it." I'll never forget my very first designer purse that she bought me, and I have fond memories of the shopping trip she took me on, where her and my grandpa always had to see every outfit I was trying on. She always took great pride in her own appearance, with her polished ensembles, perfectly blown out hair, and manicured nails. I strive to do the same. In 2017, I worked for the family business for a short time. My dad and uncles are extremely strict when it comes to taking time off. I learned very quickly that I needed to consult with the big boss, my grandma, if I wanted to get my way. They'd say no, and I'd immediately call my grandma to ask her if I could take a day off. She never hesitated to say, "Of course, honey." Whenever I felt like my dad or uncles were giving me a hard time, I always threatened to call the big boss. They'd tell me to stop trying to take advantage of my grandma, and I'd say, "I'm her granddaughter. She just wants me to be happy." That statement was accurate. She just wanted to see her family happy. As a wife, she was devoted to my grandpa for 62 years. They had a love and bond so strong, it's hard to put into words, but it was inspirational. Their marriage will always be a great example for myself and for all of us. When my grandpa passed away, my grandma truly suffered from a broken heart ever since. While I'm sad she was taken from us, I take a lot of comfort in knowing they are finally reunited. Grandma, I'm so glad you are back with the love of your life. Watch over us. I love you and I'll miss you.
My name is Ari Sonnenberg. I am Grandma B's oldest grandchild, and I am here to represent my generation. I want to share some of my favorite moments with Grandma B. Just 2 weeks ago was Grandma's 90th birthday. We all celebrated with pizza, spaghetti, and cake. At dinner, I got to sit next to Grandma, and we were all together to celebrate this milestone birthday. Another memory I have is when Grandma and Uncle Alan and Papa Jeff and I all had brunch at Beachmont earlier this year. I got to really talk to Grandma one-on-one, and I enjoyed it a lot. The 2 words I would use to describe Grandma are caring, because she would always care about everyone else, and cordial. Another memory is when Grandma Gottlieb, when we had family over at our for Hanukkah, and I sat next to her this year in baseball. She was supposed to come to a game, but it got rained out. But since I didn't know, I just wrote Grandma Gottlieb with a heart on the back of my shoe. During that game, I hit the winning home run. A couple of days later, I saw a picture of me, Noah, my brother, Grandma B, and Grandpa Gottlieb. They were all smiling. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you each for such really beautiful and moving words. Wonderful memories, a lot of warm love. And I know that you will always carry her in your hearts. And your words touch us very deeply today. I want to read the last chapter of the book of Proverbs, Eshet Chayil. It is a tribute to the ideal Jewish woman, and B embodied all these qualities in her love for Saul and her love for each of you. So it's appropriate that we should read it today. Eshet Chayil mi imsav rachok mibnini michra, batach balev bala v'shala lo yechsar. What a precious find is an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband puts his confidence in her and lacks no good thing. She is good to him, never bad, all the days of her life. She opens her hand to the needy and extends her hand to the poor. She is clothed with strength and splendor. She looks to the future cheerfully. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Her tongue is guided by kindness. She oversees the activities of her household and never eats the bread of idleness. Her children come forward and bless her. Her husband praises her and says, "Many women have done superbly, but you surpass them all." Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a God-revering woman is much to be praised. Extol her for the fruit of her hand. Wherever people gather, her deeds speak her praise. Bee was, in every sense, an Eshet Chayil. Loving and devoted to her precious Saul. A loving, caring, protective mother to you, Jeffrey and Jody, Jerry and Susie, Ellen and Lauren. A loving, doting grandmother to you, Jamie and Eric, Seth and Katie, Ariel and David, Josh and Lindsay, Jonathan and Joanna, Jessica, Robin and Dan and Jordan. And a proud, loving great-grandmother to you, Ari and Noah and Asher and Harper and Riley and Jacob and Liam and Owen. And a loving sister to you, David and Diane, and to you, Arthur, and to your beloved Sandra of blessed memory. All of you loved Bee in life, and now we're left to revere her memory in death. And we pray that your memory of her love and the gifts that she gave to each of you brings comfort. Bee was born here in Cleveland, January 9th, 1929. She grew up in Glenville and Cleveland Heights. David and Arthur, you all grew up together. She was the oldest of the three. In a modest home that was filled with hard work and great love. Bee graduated high school and then spent a year at a nursing school in Arkansas before coming back to Cleveland. And upon returning to Cleveland, that's when Bee met her beloved Saul. And we can't talk about Bee today without talking about Saul and their relationship, because they were such a part of each other. Their lives so deeply intertwined. They loved each other. They were devoted to each other. They did everything together. They were each other's source of strength and each other's source of happiness. Saul had been renting a room above the home of a painter. And the painter also knew Bee's father, and he got it into his head to fix them up with each other. And you shared with me last night and also previously that your dad had to ask your mom out several times before she agreed. At first she kept turning him down. But Saul was very persistent, calling again and again, until finally she did agree, and they went out to a nightclub near the airport. Saul picked Bee up in his maroon Studebaker, and he danced his way into her heart. It was love from the very beginning, and they were engaged within months. And your father proposed to your mother behind that big yellow wing chair in her parents' home on Superior. And a year later, they were married by Rabbi Rosenthal in the Sisterhood Chapel at Heights Temple. As I said previously at Saul's funeral, they had nothing in those days. They often said they didn't have two nickels to rub together, but they had each other. And they created this extraordinary family, which is more precious than gold. 62 years of marriage and family, years filled with challenges but with deep love and commitment, years in which they walked through life together, hand in hand, an inseparable team. They did everything together. They worked together, as Robin said. She doing the bookkeeping for the business. At home with that old-fashioned accounting machine with the big handle that you would crank. She knew how to work that handle very fast. She would drop Saul off at the Rapid for work in the morning, and then she would pile the boys in the car to pick him up in the evening. And then after Alan went to high school, and all three of you were out of the house during the day, she started working full-time with Saul and still working often in the evenings. Bee and Saul did everything together. They worked together. They celebrated family together. They were involved in the synagogue and with their friends together. They loved to travel. You shared last night that they used to drive to New York once or twice a year. One time they were driving on the turnpike and they pulled off the turnpike for dinner. After dinner, your mother said, "I'll drive the next shift." So she did, and Saul fell asleep in the car. And then about 100 miles later, Saul woke up and said, "B, you're going the wrong way." True. But you see, even when they went the wrong way, they did it together. Always together. They went on many overseas trips together too. B loved traveling. And together they went to Russia and South America and Australia. They went to Antarctica because she wanted to see the penguins. And of course to Israel, which was most precious of all to her as it was to Saul. And there were cruises and lots of time together in Florida. And the best part of Florida was when family would come down and be together. And there were also difficult emotional trips back to Europe, in which B and Saul took you, members of the family, to go back to see Saul's home, where he grew up, the ghettos and camps where he was interred. B was not herself a Holocaust survivor, but she had a deep understanding of what it meant to be a Holocaust survivor from Saul, though he didn't talk about it for many years. But she knew. And as it became something that was talked about, and then through the many trips, B shared Saul's commitment to make sure that such an event never happened again. Together they supported Holocaust education through their fund in the synagogue, through the Journey of Conscience, the Holocaust Museum. They were also very social and had a wonderful circle of friends, mostly friends from the synagogue, who they spent a great deal of time with, who they loved to be with. Those of us that knew your parents, it's hard to imagine one without the other. How much more difficult for you to imagine that. And when your father passed, it took a lot out of your mom. She was in some ways never the same after that. And you might say, in one way, she died of a broken heart. She loved him so much and loved the life that they had together. But she also loved all of you. And that's what kept her going. She had extraordinary love for you. She was a dedicated and devoted mother and grandmother and great-grandmother who found great joy and pride in every moment she could spend with you and every one of your accomplishments. Most of all, in the way the family was so strongly close to each other, bonded together. That was the single thing that B cared most about. The family should always be close together. B was very strong, steadfast, stoic, calm. She was, as Ariel said, a fighter. She didn't let things fluster her. One day, Jerry and Jeff, you shared that the two of you reached for a glass storm door at the same time. Your arms went through the glass and were trapped in the broken glass. Your mom calmly removed your arms, wrapped them in towels, and took you to the suburban emergency room. Her year of nursing school came in handy. She didn't freak out at all. She just calmly went about doing what needed to be done. And because she maintained that calm, she kept you calm as well. Because your dad worked long hours, she was often the one taking care of you, playing catch with you in the backyard, taking you to your Little League games, sporting events, and school events. She was deeply involved in your schools because she wanted to ensure that you had a good, solid education. She was even active in Northwood's PTA and rose to be its vice president. She arranged the carpools to get you to Heights Temple for religious school. Yes, she would yell at you sometimes. But then again, as your children pointed out last night, the three of you were not exactly angels. And you confessed to that and said that if you did something wrong, your mom was very strict and you would get punished. Once, Jeff and Jerry, you rode your bikes to Lee Road and you were grounded for the whole summer. And Alan, you shared a beautiful story about your family dog, a French poodle named Gingy. Bee loved that dog, so much so that even at a later time than the story I'm going to tell now, when the dog got away from home, she went driving around the neighborhood to find it in the middle of the night to bring Gingy back. And it's really no wonder why she loved Gingy so much. You see, Gingy would wait by the door of the house for the three boys to come home each night. And when the last one entered the house, then Gingy would go upstairs and lay down next to Bee in her bedroom. So Bee always knew when the three boys were home. Once, Alan, you shared that you fell asleep at Laurie's. Waking up, you realized it was 2:30 in the morning, and you rushed home. There was Gingy waiting at the door. And as soon as you came in, she went upstairs and laid down next to your mom. And Bea knew what that meant. The next morning she said, "Alan, you're grounded." Yes, she was strict, and she was very protective of all of you. But she was also, she was strict, but she was also very protective of all of you. When you traveled, even as adults, all these years, she always insisted that you called to let her know that you arrived to your destination safely. And once, Alan, you and your father were in Italy. You had driven a long day to get to the hotel where you were staying for the show there. And then about 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the night, the phone rang. And Alan, you said your father answered the phone, and he said, "Yes, yes, okay, yes." He hung up the phone. And the next morning you said, "Dad, who was that called?" He said, "It was your mother." They hadn't called to say they had arrived safely. She was worried. And as she was so loving, caring, protective of her three boys, so she embraced each of you, Lori, Susie, Jody, as her own daughters, treated you with the same love as she did also for her grandchildren's spouses, welcoming them fully into family. She was a devoted and proud grandmother and great-grandmother who cared more about each of you than about herself. She was, you share with me, really nice, fun to be with. Robin and Jamie, she took you to New York shows, and Ariel, you talked about how she took you for your first manicure. And Jamie, you shared how when you were in school in Boca, you called her to tell her that you have the flu. And she made it from West Palm Beach to Boca in 20 minutes flat. And you said, every time you drive on the highway there, you try to figure out how she could do that. She was a fast driver. And the great-grandchildren have such memories. Ari, you spoke so beautifully last night, sharing memory after memory after memory of visits with your grandmother and lunches at Beachmont, holiday times, photographs. What a blessing. For each of you, the great-grandchildren, what a blessing for Bea that she knew her great-grandchildren. They were part of her life. There are beautiful memories of the Rosh Hashanah lunch at Beachmont and going there on Saturdays, and especially a tradition that developed to go to lunch at Beachmont on the Saturday after Thanksgiving each year, which was only for the grandchildren. She so looked forward to that. Bee loved going to Beachmont because she loved the kids' menu there. Oh yeah, the mac and cheese, I'll have that. You all loved hanging out and watching TV with her. Her favorite shows were MASH and Blue Bloods, and she also loved Turner movie classics. She knew every single actor, and she liked to watch baseball. She had no idea what was going on, and she didn't really care, but she loved to watch it. And Ari showed memories of reading books to Grandma Gottlieb at the nursing home. Joanna, you shared a beautiful story how Jerry and Susie, you were going to Boston. I think it was Joanna's birthday, but also they were about to get engaged. And Bea knew that you were going to Boston, and so she gave you a birthday card to take with to her. She always sent birthday cards. She never missed. And in the birthday card, she wrote to her granddaughter. And they weren't even engaged yet. Bea raised all of you in a home that was committed to Jewish observance and practice and Jewish values and Jewish life, Jewish community, Torah, and Israel. These were values that she and Saul held in common, and they instilled them in each of you. The home was filled with Shabbat tables and holiday celebrations, prayer and tzedakah, community gatherings in support of various causes. Bea was a Lion of Judah through the Federation, and she was honored with the Prime Minister Award from Israel Bonds some 20 years ago. She was very active and assisted the congregation, and she and Saul were regulars on Shabbat. The whole family was always together for the holidays. And Bea and Saul also had a very special relationship with the clergy of the synagogue. They had great respect and love for clergy, for the rabbis and cantors, and a close personal relationship and friendship with each of them. They were married by Rabbi Rosenthal and Cantor Meisels, and they and their wives were all good friends. When they first came to Heights Temple, they told Rabbi Rosenthal they wanted to join the synagogue, but they could not afford it. And Rabbi Rosenthal liked them very much and told them they should give whatever they felt was appropriate. And from there, a fast friendship developed. They were also extremely close with Lifsa and Rabbi Schachter, who I know are watching the stream today and send you their love and their prayers for comfort. And Naomi and I, and Rabbi Rudenloria and Erica, and Kenneth Schiffman and Sabrina, all of us enjoyed a really wonderful, deep, joyful relationship with your parents. Loved to be with them to celebrate Shabbat, holidays. So many wonderful times together. And her image is etched in my mind. A kind of playful glint that would be in her eyes and her wonderful smile. And the way she spoke with such extraordinary pride about the family. And her love for Yiddishkeit. She loved to play canasta and maj, and she was in a bowling league. Bea respected money. She grew up in a modest home, so she never took money for granted. She was always looking for that discount or that sale. She would waste $2 gas to save 10 cents on a purchase. She never wanted to buy anything for herself. And if you bought her something, if she knew the price, she would get upset. Once, Jerry, you shared you made the mistake of leaving the price tags on, and when she saw what the cost was of what you had bought, she made you take it back. That was the last time you did that. That is, leave the price on. But the one thing she did love was her Ferragamo shoes. And she always dressed very stylish, with her hair just right, and her nails done, as the girls reflected. And she had no trouble spending money if it was on her grandchildren or great-grandchildren. She bought all the girls Louis Vuitton bags, and she bought the great-grandchildren lots of cool gifts like those cars. I think it was Ari that got them that turn on the wall that she bought at Play Matters. Once, Josh, you took your grandmother to the airport. You said, well, because she paid you. But I don't believe it was just that. She looked at your car. It was an older car, not in great shape. And she said to you, tell your dad to buy you a new car. B could never keep a secret. It's because when she knew something good about the family, she would get so excited about it that she just had to share it. She couldn't stop herself. So Robin, when you were pregnant with Liam, you told her the day of the Schechter rib burn-off that you were expecting, but that it wasn't public yet, not to share it with anybody. Well, that was a mistake. By the end of the day, everybody at the rib burn-off knew. And Katie, when you had just become pregnant, it was only weeks. And you saw her, and right away she knew immediately without you saying a word, and you said, shh, don't tell anybody yet. Well, forget that. She couldn't help herself but talk about all of you all the time. About what you were doing, about your accomplishments, about family gatherings and celebrations, because you were at the heart of her life. B was, first and foremost, a caretaker of the family, who was loyal, devoted, and dedicating, caring, and compassionate. She was sweet and elegant, but also strong-willed, tough, and when she needed to be, feisty. She was the rock of this family. And I want to take a moment also to talk about B's caretakers, because you all expressed such deep appreciation to them for the way they looked after your mom and the relationships that they formed with her. Stephanie and Brenda were a godsend to be in the family. Not just caregivers, but really, they became close friends with B. Stephanie liked to call your mother Lady B. And she let you know that thanks to Lady B, Stephanie knows all the family secrets and how B really feels about each one of you. Maybe that's why B liked the Golden Girls, because Stephanie and Brenda were her Golden Girls. B lived a good life, a life filled with a lot of joy, a life filled with a lot of blessing. You all were her greatest blessing. The last years since Saul's passing were much harder. She was a little lost without him, and then her own health deteriorated. And these past weeks were especially difficult, waiting and watching for the time to come that B would pass. Through it all, through every challenge that your mother faced, whatever health issues arose, whatever challenges to her physical and mental well-being, you rallied around her. You, Jeff, Jerry, and Alan, and you, the entire family, to make sure that she got the care that she needed and deserved, that she always got the best. To make sure that she was always surrounded by family, and she always knew how much she was loved. To make sure every moment that could be was a moment that was a special moment to share with her. As time got on, that got harder, but you never stopped from lifting her up and seeking to do the best for her. Make sure that she was as comfortable as possible, that she knew how much you loved her and that you were always there for her. Waiting at the end is always hard. And B took a long time before she decided she was ready to leave. We talked a few times in the hospital, wondering what was holding her back. It seemed like she could pass at any time, and yet the days rolled by. And you said goodbye and gave her permission to go. And there was a moment there. B was close to passing, and so was a very close friend of hers and your father's, of your family, Mark Gross. And the Grosses are here today. And I remember we had a conversation about the possibility of what happens if they passed the same day. It could have happened. And how would the two families deal with that, because they're so close and want to be there for each other, and how can you be there for each other as you're going through your own grief? And how unusual it is for two people who were such close lifelong friends to pass so close to each other. So I know we had talked about what if they pass the same day, and we had conversations about, well, what if it happens during Shiva? Can we go? Can we not go? Mort's Shiva ended this morning, and you're all here. And I'm convinced the two of them planned this. No question. You know, we talked about this idea that as we get close to death, the soul slips in and out of the body, and it's not physically present, but it's around us, and it's connected to God's Spirit, and it sees and knows everything. And I think in that moment they talked. They said, well, we have to coordinate a little bit. Make sure our children can be there for each other. And so I don't know who decided who would go first. But it's clear to me that B waited to make sure that the Shiva would be over and both families could draw strength from each other. And that's beautiful. And it's a reflection of the deep bonds between these families. I want to close by reflecting on B's legacy to all of you. You told me the greatest legacy that she leaves behind is family. And it truly is. This is an extraordinary family. All of you are so close to each other. There are such deep bonds between you. It's evident every time I'm with you. I see the joy in the room and the way that you interact with each other, the laughter and the love, how you lean on each other and help each other and lift each other up, and make each other feel good. This is a single thing that your mom cared most about. When everything is said and done, this is the one thing that she would want you to remember. To always remain close to each other, to look after each other, to support each other, to love each other. And I know that she's looking down on you now and that she's feeling really good because she sees that love that bonds all of you together. And that does her soul good. Just as she built this extraordinary family, that's now the challenge each of you have. To take that legacy forward. Alan, Jeff, and Jerry, the three of you are so closely tied to each other. There's a verse in the book of Ecclesiastes that says a threefold cord is not quickly broken. And Alan, you referenced that verse with me in a conversation this morning, how appropriate it is. the three of you not only work together, made your families together, you are close friends with each other, deeply involved in each other's lives. And you raised your children to also be close and deeply involved in each other's lives. That, in the end, is the greatest legacy of all. And in that gift of family, me will live on with all of you. May you always feel her presence with you, guiding you closer to each other and strengthening in you the values that she stood for. And may her memory be for a blessing. And we all say, Amen.
Just want to take the opportunity to speak not only as rabbi, but as admirer, as friend, and honorary member of the family. Now, first, we say that there are no such thing as coincidences in life. And today, as we gather to say goodbye to a true gem, our beloved Bernice, this is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. It was this day 74 years ago that Auschwitz-Birkenau was liberated. And we know this family's pain and devastating loss in the Shoah. And of course, Bernice's beloved soul, survivor, and the dedication and commitment to remembering, to keeping the Holocaust memory alive. As Rabbi Weiss said, supporting education and museums and missions. Bernice and Saul live for this, and there's some connection, which I think we're still trying to find out. In this week's portion, we read that after receiving the Ten Commandments, the leaders of the Jewish people came partway up Mount Sinai. They got a glimpse of God. All they saw was a jewel-lined path in the sky, a sapphire brickwork upon which God's throne sits. This portion discusses jewels and gemstones. It reminds me of our most precious diamond, our bee. Bernice was exquisite, immaculate, gracious, a true gem. Although I know very little about diamonds, anything I know I learned from the Gottliebs, I do know that they are graded and valued on the 4 C's. Bernice lived by 4 C's. I'm not talking about cut, clarity, color, and carat. She lived by the 4 C's of character, of conviction and koach, of care and community. I know there are many more C's we could add. Many were said already today. Calm, cordial, class, kinder, children. Her boys incredibly close-knit. Bernice had the most exquisite character. She was truly values-driven, deeply committed to family and Jewish tradition, honesty and integrity, always doing right. And boy, did she have conviction, determination, that inner strength. Koyach, diamond, of course, is the strongest gem, and she most certainly was. She lived a life filled every single day with care and compassion, always looking out for family and friend and community. So giving, and most especially to us as our synagogue, we are extremely grateful to Saul and Bernice's generosity to us, and giving in all ways. Always enlarging her circle of family and community. She had an elegance, a charm, a dignified grace, a grandeur. I always thought that if I was a casting director for a movie, I would cast Bernice as a British monarch, or perhaps a warrior queen like Wonder Woman's mother. To her last days, Bee was austere and regal. Not with a coldness or unapproachable distance. She was down to earth, always inviting, always enlarging that circle. It's just the way she held herself, so royal. A genuine loving warmth that radiated from her. With a great sense of humor. Oh, how we'd laugh together when I would visit and spend time with her. And that smile when she laughed, that twinkle in her eye that Rabbi Weiss mentioned, like she understood everything that was unsaid. She knew what you were thinking. She knew what her boys were up to while growing up. She knew that she and Saul had built this gem of a family, the pure nachas of seeing the family grow from generation to generation. boys and daughters in love, and grands and greats encircling her. Bernice was our queen, our most precious diamond. Her light still shines in each of you, in each of us. You are each a facet of her, for family was always number one. B, thank you for your love, for your friendship, your generosity, and support.
We'll rise now for the memorial prayer.
אלמלא רחמים שוכן במרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת בן אליעזר בת יעקב שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם אהנם בעל הרחמים אז תראה בסדר כנפיך לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים ונשמתם אדוני הוא נחלתם ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen.
Exalted, compassionate God, we pray that you grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure. To the soul of our beloved Bernice B. Gottlieb, who has gone to her eternal home. O merciful one, we ask that she find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May the Lord be her portion. May she rest in peace. And we say it together. Amen. Interment will follow at Beit Olam Cemetery, after which the family will gather at the home of Jerry and Susie Gottlieb on Waterford in Orange.